Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. As you're aware, this is a theme talk on the transportation theme, and well, some of you would be aware that we had done a similar call a month and a half ago when there was initial talks around implementation of GST reforms. Obviously, those were early days where there was no structure or clarity in terms of what the GST reforms would be, but we had done a similar webinar right after the initial announcement on 15th of August during Prime Minister Modi's speech on Independence Day. So after that, obviously, there was a lot of buzz on this topic, and we had done a call at that point in time. Now, obviously, it's something which has already been implemented, and it's been actually 3 weeks since we have the new GST structure in play, and we thought it would be quite apt to give you an update on where exactly we are, what kind of ground updates we are getting on this particular sector in terms of volume pickups due to the GST reforms, so on and so forth. And that's the reason we have scheduled this particular call. If we go by the initial numbers have been very strong. In passenger vehicles and two-wheeler segments, we have seen a significant uptick in volumes during the Navratri Dashera period this season, this year versus what we had seen last year. So obviously there has been an uptick in volume. There has been good momentum due to the GST reforms. And Priya, I'm sure will touch base on that. But this is just one tailwind for this sector. There are numerous other favorable factors which are expected to aid this particular sector and the theme at large. And that's the reason we have invited Priya Ranjan, who is the fund manager of HDFC Transportation and Logistics team. And he's also our auto analyst. So he's our in-house auto expert. And who better than him to touch base on various nuances around this particular sector. So before I hand it over to Priya, just a quick note from mine. So obviously you may be having a lot of questions on this sector, GST reforms, anything beyond that on the sector. You can feel free to put that in the chat box. And after Priya's brief presentation, we'll be more than happy to take the questions. So without much ado, without any further delay, I'll hand it over to Priya for the presentation. Over to you, Priya.
When we talk about, wheel is always considered to be one of the best innovation we have in the human history. So the government is now turning the wheel. Actually, the government's initial stance for this present government for last 10 years has been more from the supply side led incentive to kickstart or to jumpstart the economy and growth. Uh, After 10 years, I think more than 10 years, the government has changed the track from the supply side to the demand side, which is where we are seeing more of the action of the recent government initiative, whether it's a tax boost or whether it's a interest rate reduction or whether it's a demand boost through the GST rate rationalization and the cut across the board. So I think the government's thought process, and in the supply side, what we have seen various PLI schemes, various in the corporate tax rate cut, etc., has happened, but probably the intended consequences of those action has not bear fruit, and the government has finally decided to move the wheel from the other side. So that's where you see all the actions from the government for the last 1.5 year, where you either in the interest rate cut or income tax reduction, rate reduction, etc., and then you see the latest in the sequence is basically the GST rate rationalization across the board on all the consumption driven segment. So, and when we talk about this theme, whenever we have spoken on this theme has always been a very multi-decadalist theme, and you can see any economy in the world, whether it's even a developed economy or large developing economy like China, I think this segment has always contributed very significantly. Transport and logistics is roughly around 15 to 20% of the economy. And if you just can imagine, from the 4 billion economy with the 20% or so contribution from this segment, and imagine the growth it can generate over a period of time from if 4 trillion economy becomes 10 trillion economy, which is what the government is targeting in the next 7-8 years. So on that behalf, I think I would say that the theme has a multi-decadal story, and for last 1 year, the theme has been little flattish, and where the wheels has turned. So whenever we have seen this kind of kicker from the indirect taxes, whether it's a 2003, 2004, or 2008, 9, 10, when the post GFC crisis, the things has changed. You see that this cycle, I mean, this is also a cyclical sector. So this cycle typically turns up for at least minimum for 2 3 years, and then the cycle little bit plateaued. But I mean, and then it kick starts once again after 1 year or 2 year of pause. So what this is what has happened. I mean, post COVID, the segment has or the sector has actually done pretty well in the initial 3 4 years. Last 1 year has been little struggling. I mean, although there was no degrowth kind of scenario, but I mean there was some segment where we have been seeing some kind of flatness for the demand for last 1 year. But what I see is that this theme will continue to go very strongly for the next couple of years or maybe more than 2 3 years. We also have to bear in mind, I mean, these actions will also be followed by in a 1 year or 1.5 year time frame from the government boost in terms of from the pay commission recommendation. And you can imagine, I mean, all the most of the state government PSUs and plus the central government all put together, there is a sizable income category, sizable number of people or household which is impacted from that pay commission. So I think this theme will continue to have a rollover for next 2 3 years easily. And if you consider this theme, I mean, I always say this is a multi-decadal theme. So after 3 years, you will not see that there might be a pause for 6 months, 1 year, or 1.5 year. But I mean, thereafter as well, you will see a significant amount of boost because our penetration of car is actually 30% per household. Even China, which is now at more than 100, Brazil, etc., is more than 100, which is what we are talking about in terms of developing economy. And if you go to the developed economy, it's roughly around 400, 500 to 700, I mean, depending on the different countries. So I think the opportunity size, the scale of the vehicle park base, etc., is going to substantially jump. And I'm very hopeful that we will be somewhere in the next couple of years or maybe next 3 years, we will be the third largest single passenger car market across the world. I mean, the bigger market with China is roughly around 25 million vehicles. US is roughly 16 million to 17 million for quite some time, and then third and fourth has been typically either Japan or I mean mostly Germany, and then fourth has been Japan, so which is hovering around 4.5 million. So from there, and our population base is the highest, very closer to the China. Now we have actually crossed the China as well. So we should not think that we can't move to around 20-25 million annual car sales base in the next couple of decades when our income or per capita income reaches to the what China is at this point of time. So from that angle, uh, uh, I mean, we have talked about a couple of points here, that reversal of interest rate, GST rate cuts, which is now formalized now, as well as the domestic focused auto ancillary companies, which is the key beneficiary of the auto OEMs growth as well, because you see, I mean, the beneficiary benefit in terms of the auto ancillary has been always very, very high, because there is on a one vehicle sales, you also have a number of suppliers which is getting engaged. And as we see the premiumization and more features of the car, I mean, the ancillary typically also benefits more and more. And from that angle, I think the rural, which has been quite subdued for last couple of years, uh, is also seeing significant amount of traction at this point of time, where we see the well distributed rain across the board, across the country. We have seen for last uh, 4 5 month odds, and the income level of the farmers has actually significantly turned positive over the period of time. And that's where, if you talk to most of the OEMs, I mean, they always say for last 1.5 year, last 1 year more precisely, to be rural has been doing for slightly better than the urban. So I think that on that note, and the rural is the maximum underpenetrated segment. So I think that's why I am very hopeful, or I mean, we are very hopeful that this segment will should do well and this theme should do well over a period of many years for in coming years, and I think next 2 years will be very strong cycle. And this confidence is driven by the even the past cycle whenever we have seen these kind of interest rate the indirect tax cut, whether it's 2003-4 or whether it's 2009-10 period. So Amay, can we move on? Yeah, so now this is the formalized structure, and what we have I mean, initially when we have done the webinar one month back, or slightly more than 1 month back, I think this is the similar structure we have envisaged, and I think the government has also come out with the similar kind of structure. So this is typically to increase the penetration of the vehicle, to increase the penetration of affordability. And this is what precisely has been playing out in last 20 days. In whatever we have seen, the entry segment is doing pretty well across the board, whether it's a four-wheeler, whether it's a two-wheeler, I think. And there are segments, even the rural segments like tractor, etc., has been doing pretty well. And what we have been talking about, the post this was the period when 2008 and 2009, while our this cycle has turned negative. The impetus in 2009 from the excise duty, that time it used to be excise duty, the excise duty reduction has taken 2 to 3 years. I mean, even FY12 number is not there, but I think even FY12 was also a growth year. So I think so that's why our confidence is coming from for the next 2 3 year cycle is derived from these historical numbers. I mean, if you go back to 2003-4, the similar kind of structure you will see. And one thing which is also happening is the interest rate cycle has also been very benign, and this is most this theme has predominantly around 70 80% penetration of finance. So I think that will also be beneficially for the end consumer as well as the supply chain. Next, please. So now coming to our portfolio strategy, I mean, we have always been running this portfolio from the flexi cap approach. We are and we have mix of large cap, mid cap, and the small cap as well. And we always prefer segment leaders and potential segment leaders, and where we see maximum potential of the earning upgrade, etc. And the new themes which is going in the segment. So, and our approach has always been more focused on value. I think as a house, we always have a little more skewedness towards value. So, always we try to capture whenever the stock is at the real value. I mean, next, please. Yeah, so this is the valuation chart. So although valuation is slightly above the long-term average, but we also have to note that many of the estimates of streets has not actually factored in the upcycle. So these numbers is derived from the old estimates, and we see significant amount of earning upgrade over the next 1 to 2 years. So, and that is where my comfort on the valuation, what valuation at this point of time looking like. Maybe 6 months down the line, when we talk about these valuation, will be the valuation will look much cheaper if you look back into the hindsight. So we are not worried in terms of valuation at this point of time, because the uptake and the earning up cycle is typically always lags the initial demand trend. So I think that will these valuation will look more corrected as we move forward. So valuation landscape, although may look slightly on the upper side for many of the segment, but as I have a confidence on the upside. So basically the upside will give more valuation reasonability when we look back 2 3 months down the line. So, and this is a play on, and why this theme is because this is a play on manufacturing as well as discretionary consumption. Because see, the when we talk about manufacturing actually this is the only segment in, or apart from one pharma, etc., where we have the maximum value addition happening. In the any of the vehicle manufacturer, talk about around 90% localization is achieved. So some component, I mean, is still out there, but I think the thought process of the most of the manufacturer is around 90-95%. So that's why this, if you look at the tariff structure globally and the tariff situation, etc., which is arising from the North America, etc., is also driven by this fact that the value addition should be in the local market, and this is one segment where you have the maximum value addition. So the government, the decision to actually give significant boost to the GST cut in this segment is also driven by that this segment can create the manufacturing ecosystem and which can benefit significantly to the entire ecosystem. You will see the growth in the jobs, the growth in the capex cycle as well. I mean, the improvement in the capex cycle. If suppose we are currently have a production base of 5.5 million cars, and 5 years down the line, if we are looking at around 8 to 10 million car manufacturing, then your production base has to double. So, and this production base, apart from what you see in terms of the ancillary level capex, I think there will be a huge capex boom as well in the private capex side. So I think the government has well thought. I mean, this strategy of the government has been well thought in terms of the where it is fitting in, and this is also having the consumption. I mean, so this is more driven by the domestic and domestic consumption because of the unaffordability of the vehicle. Because of last 5-7 years, there has been a lot of regulation has come up. The tax rate has also been on a higher side. So all these have led to some kind of unaffordability situation in this segments, and which the government has tried to create. And so overall economy point of view, you will see the financial, the suppliers, the job creation, etc., all put together, and the entire ecosystem of selling, etc., on the services side. And so when the vehicle park expands, then the services economy also goes up in that segment. So I think the government thought on the GST reduction of this segment has been pretty uh, pointed and directed, and this will we will see the outcome of this over a period of time. And as we say, I talked about earlier, also there is a structural and cyclical upturn. So structural is when I talk about 20 years, maybe we are talking about 15 million car annually sales from last year around 4 odd million sales. So this is typically around four times we are talking about next 15-20 years, right? And then in the near term cyclical upturn, next 2-3 years we foresee at least or various brokerage houses or various experts are talking about at least double digit growth. And the double digit growth means your the size of the economy and the size of the wheel or the size of the ecosystem will significantly be much higher than what it is right now. And what we have tried to do is actually we have tried to, given the uncertainty on tariff and the global economy, etc., we have tried to position our portfolio. I mean, till recently about more domestic oriented, and I think that is one area where we are more positive on. I mean, because we don't know what is going to happen on the global tariff side or the global economy side. So I think the domestic driven consumption, and that's where the government has also tried to come back and focus on more on domestic consumption. And then there are various segments also. I mean, you have a two-wheeler, you have passenger vehicle, you have commercial vehicle, tractors, you have logistics, you have e-commerce. I mean, all whole gamut is predominantly more driven towards the predominantly more driven towards the domestic consumption. And this segment, I mean, if you look at this segment, it has been historically also and currently also very little overlap of the broader Nifty 50 or Nifty 500, right? ओवरऑल सो मैं मेरा ये मानना है कि ये थीम जो है मल्टी डिकेडल थीम है एंड दिस हैज आई मीन इफ यू लुक एट द हिस्टोरिकल परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ आल्सो द इंडेक्स आई मीन अगर आप हिस्टोरिकली भी देखेंगे ये पूरे इंडेक्स का तो द थीम हैज बीन प्लेड आउट ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आई थिंक द इंडेक्स फॉर ये थीम का इंडेक्स मोर देन 20 years ओल्ड है एंड यू कैन सी द इंडेक्स रिटर्न ऑल्सो इन दैट थीम का it has been always broadly played out over a period of time. और मेरा सिंपल सा इसमें थॉट प्रोसेस है कि किसी भी इकोनॉमी का, ग्रोइंग इकोनॉमी का और डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन का ट्रांसपोर्ट और लॉजिस्टिक, जिसमें ऑटो भी आता है, मतलब ऑटो इज़ द बिगर पार्ट, जो बड़ा पार्ट है ऑटो का, वो टोटल मिला के आपका 20% ऑफ द इकोनॉमी का होता है। आई मीन डिस्क्रिशनरी कंजम्पशन का, चाहे आप कितनी भी बड़ी इकोनॉमी ले लो, चाहे वेदर इट्स आप अमेरिका की बात करो या फिर चाइना की बात करो, आई मीन दीज टू आर, ये दोनों सब आज के दिन में सबसे बड़े ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी है। सो ऑन दैट बेस, और फिर एक जो अफोर्डेबिलिटी का इशू आया था, जो 4-5 साल 6 साल से, द गवर्नमेंट हैज ट्राई टू एड्रेस दैट, गवर्नमेंट ने उसको पूरा करेक्ट करने का ट्राई किया है। एंड जो पहले गवर्नमेंट का थॉट प्रोसेस था कि मोर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग टॉप ड्रिवन, लाइक पीएलआई स्कीम दो, ये दो, इनके कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स रेट कम करो, उससे ज़्यादा बेनिफिट हुआ नहीं। तो गवर्नमेंट ने अपना ट्रैक चेंज किया, और गवर्नमेंट सप्लाई साइड से अब डिमांड साइड की तरफ फोकस कर रही है। एंड अभी जो लास्ट 6 महीने 8 महीने से देख रहे हैं, ग्लोबल फ्लक्स जो टैरिफ का रिलेटेड है, प्रोटेक्शनिज्म, अपना डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी प्रोटेक्शनिज्म रिलेटेड है। सो व्हाट वी हैव सीन इज कि दिस इज द राइट टाइम टू फोकस ऑन डोमेस्टिक इकोनॉमी, एंड उसको डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन को कैसे बूस्ट किया जाए, एंड द गवर्नमेंट हैज गिवन द राइट फिलिप टू दैट डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन बाय जीएसटी रेट कट। सो आई थिंक जब भी ये इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स कट हुए हैं, जब आइदर 2003-4 में या फिर 2009-10 में, हम लोगों ने देखा है कि अगले 2-3 साल तक वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, मतलब काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग रिकवरी हुई है ये पूरे थीम को लेकर, नेक्स्ट 2-3 इयर्स का साइकिल। सो इट्स नॉट, आई मीन, when many people are still thinking that whether it's just a theme for the festive season, no, this is not a theme for festive season, because the government has very thoughtfully, और government ने काफ़ी thoughtfully इसको ट्राई किया है। थैंक यू मैं थैंक ऑल द पार्टिसिपेंट्स।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार के जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।